And talking about the season, you had a flipping cracking season this year. You were right up at the top end of the enduro results when we first started coming along. You had some great battles with Sam back in 17, and you've always been up there. But this year, especially, you started your own program this year after being on numerous factory teams, and it looks like it went really well. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about putting that program together? Was that a lot of work over riding for a team? What were the benefits and the hard parts of that? And yeah, let us know. Tell us how you got back up at the top of the Enduro World Cup this year. You've done amazing, mate.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, really, really happy. It's yeah, as you say, like having had good years in the past, and then a couple of years was a few years lower down results than I want to be. It's yeah, geez, it's so nice to be back where I feel like I can be, and especially as you say, like having set up my own program, it was a bit of a risk. Well, it was a big risk. So it was either gonna go flop or pay off, and yeah, really happy it did pay off. So yeah, like I was on pro teams for factory teams for 9 years. And then last year, so I was on Da Vinci for 4 years, and then they closed the team. Purely just they were kind of going in a different direction. They're going more aluminium bikes made in Canada. So like racing a World Series on carbon bikes in Europe didn't really make sense. So they pulled the team, and then there was a lot changing in enduro, and there was a few teams were leaving, a few were getting smaller, and the ones that stayed, they kind of a lot of them stayed the same. So after speaking to a few teams, I kind of realized like, there's not that many options out there, and there's especially not many options where I feel like I'd be at my best, because that was having had a few tough years. Like the one thing I wanted from this year was to finish the season happy with my results.
Yeah.
So like I didn't want to just ride for any team that would have me, kind of thing. So I kind of just came to the conclusion that right, sometimes if you want things done right, at least the way you want them done, you're better off just doing it yourself. So yeah, luckily, like I've been around for quite a while, so I've got the experience to kind of know what I want and know how to, what it takes to go to the races, basically. So yeah, I just set about put my own program together and literally just chose the things I wanted. I kind of made a list of a few bikes I wanted to ride, the parts I wanted to ride, and just put it together with that, really. And then went chasing money kind of outside the bike industry, because obviously the bike industry is having a tough time. So if everyone's trying to feed from the same pot, it's not going to stretch that far. So yeah, it was a bit of a different approach, but it worked out well, worked out nicely, and it gave me like a bit of freedom, as I say, to kind of choose the bikes and the parts and stuff I wanted to ride. So yeah, it was definitely a busy off season. Thankfully, the season started late; didn't start until May, so we had a bit more time to work on it. And yeah, kind of I'd say around January, like things started coming together. I got the bikes, and from then on, it was kind of just business as usual, because I kind of had everything booked, had everything organized, sponsors were all locked in. So it was more the first half of the winter was different, I'd say, and then after that, it was kind of business as usual, I would say, in some ways.
And when you get yourself in that situation where you have got some options on choosing what bike you want to ride and stuff, from an enduro World Cup racer, what is the main characteristics that you want from a bike? Like, how did you decide, what bike you thought you wanted? Were you able to try a bunch of bikes out, or was it just basically going off, the look of the bike and you just knowing it's going to work and be reliable, I guess? How did you sort of approach all that?
Yeah, like at first, I wanted to try some bikes, and when I initially contacted a couple of brands, I asked could I get a frame to try, but time just ran out so quickly that it didn't really happen. So I kind of had to just go off, yeah, what you can see when you see people racing bikes as well, what's good, and you can see if anyone who's been on a certain bike has gone well. You kind of have an idea of what works well, but then as well, like it kind of you go on websites like Linkage, and you can see the actual characteristics of the bike. You look at the geometry, the kinematics, and everything, and see like right, like I chose the Ibis, and looking at the numbers on that, it looks like a very comfortable bike to ride. It's not, it doesn't have crazy anti-rise or any of those things, so it's yeah, it looked like a very rideable bike. And to be fair, when I got it, it was exactly that. Like my first run on the bike was just like, yeah, this is easy to ride. And yeah, it was just I knew it was kind of going to work with me, so that was kind of what I was going off.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm nowhere near as experienced as you on the racing enduro at your level, but to me, I think for enduro racing, which is differently to downhill racing, you don't really need a super complicated bike with tons of different things going on. You want a bike that just feels quite neutral. It's got good geometry, rides well, and it's going to get you through the set 6 or 7 stages safely through the weekend with as much problems with as least problems as possible. Is that kind of your outlook on it, or you
Yeah,
know?
for sure, for sure. I mean, like that, it is definitely an element, but at the same time, I think most bikes these days are good, especially in terms of reliability. Like it's something that I've noticed is there's a lot less mechanicals these days at the races, whereas in the early EWS days, it was carnage. Like you'd regularly be passing boys on the side of stages with a wheel exploded or whatever. So yeah, thankfully, like in terms of you talk about running your own program, being a privateer, it's a good time to do it because bikes they hold up pretty well.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely like a neutral bike, a bike that's good everywhere because yeah, compared to downhill, like we've kind of a lot of different elements we need from the bike. It's not just point and shoot down the hill. Well, not downhill's that simple, but like yeah, you kind of want it to be good everywhere and just not be doing anything too crazy.
definitely, mate. And so, was there a couple of sponsors that had stuck by you from, using on previous factory teams and stuff that you work with, or did you basically have to start from scratch with everybody?
Yeah, I managed to keep a few. Like Red Bull's obviously a massive help. So like I kind of had a bit of security there with that from the start, which was really good. And then I kept like SRAM drivetrains, Hayes brakes, SDG saddles, and then after that it was kind of yeah Liat as well. Sorry. So yeah, like I stayed pretty much head to toe in Liat kit, which was yeah a big help. It's nice to stay with familiar things as well, not change everything. Like to stay even Hayes brakes was nice because brakes are quite a big thing. But yeah, quite a few parts did change on the bike, to be fair. But it was all things that I tried and things that I knew was going to serve me well. So yeah.
Cool. And then how does it work with your program and having a mechanic and support at the races? How did that work this year?
Yeah, so I one of the first things I did was so Ewan Horner, who was the guy who was my mechanic this year. One of the first things I did was I spoke to him. And like he wasn't a mechanic before, but he works in a bike shop. He races at a good level, so like he kind of has the pieces of the puzzle I was looking for. So I kind of went to him and I was like, "Look, this is what I'm trying to do." At that time it was quite uncertain, and I didn't know would I have other riders or how big or small it was going to be. But I was like, "Do you want to be involved, no matter how it kind of works out?" And he was keen, so that was really good because yeah, like for this to work, I needed a mechanic, because to put in that much effort to put the program together and train and everything, and then if you get to the race and you're having to work on your own bike, it takes a lot out of you. So yeah, as I say, I wanted to finish the year proud of my results, so that was a big part of that happening. So yeah, Ewan was on board from the start, and yeah, we travelled, me, Ewan, and then we had Tama, my filmer. So he was hanging around as well, which was cool. He had brought the good vibes, and it was good to gave it a kind of a team feel as well, which was cool. And then my girlfriend Audrey came when she could as well. So it was funny. Like at some races, it was that we had three staff and one rider essentially,
Yeah.
which last year I had it was kind of two riders, one staff, maybe two at sometimes. So yeah, like in finale, I felt like geez, I've actually got more support on the ground here than I have in the past years. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. It's funny because it looks like the opposite, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was well looked after by everyone around me, so it was really cool.
Cool. And how did it work? Sort of, does your mechanic go around with you in practice? So you've kind of got a teammate to, talk about the stages and how does that work? Because when you're with a team, you normally go around the stages in practice with one of your teammates, I guess.
Yeah, so we did. Ewan did come at the venues it suited because some venues it kind of made more sense for him to be shuttling. But when it suited, like I had two HD6s built up identical, so he would ride my training bike in practice, and then so if I did need any tools or spares or whatever to rob off that, I could. And then still, to be fair, hung out a bit with Evan, my teammate from last year, so he was kind of on a one man program as well. So we kind of just teamed up, and that kind of kept it. It was good because we know each other well. We know
Yeah.
what we like and how to speak to each other. So that was kind of it was nice to feel like I had a teammate a bit at the races that we practiced together.